wild ride. The Callisto Protocol was quite the experience. Like usual, I didn't look at any previews, so I didn't really know what to expect, besides that I knew it had something to do with the creators of Dead Space, a game that I loved. Immediately, you are introduced to a game with outstanding visuals. The graphics and animation are among the best I have ever seen in a game. The controls are simple and are quickly forgotten as you intuitively navigate the world.
Got it.
While the high level of polish and simplicity of the mechanics are on par with a big blockbuster action game, the world is unapologetically horror. You are thrust into an utterly gory and violent nightmare. The game moves between suspenseful horror, tense violent combat, and moments of blockbuster action scenes. The player is constantly being pushed forward by an unrelenting narrative of survival. I had a ton of fun playing through the Callisto Protocol, finding enjoyment in various aspects.
The hell was that?
That is not to say that I didn't have any issues with the game. Nothing is ever perfect. Aside from the now fixed launch issues on PC, the issues were rather small, or at most, personal preference. Despite that, I really enjoyed the Callisto Protocol. I had a blast. I found myself smiling, I found myself tensely gripping my controller, I found myself immersed and curiously exploring the environments, and I found myself enthralled in the lore of the world. This game is a horror game, but it doesn't box itself too much or limit itself too much. There are moments of blockbuster movie fun, there are times of exploration, and there are sections of tense horror. The game did start to feel a little repetitive around 30% in, but it does, thankfully, evolve and keep things fresh enough. I did find myself a little confused at times on what I was supposed to be doing. The game is well designed enough though that it's pretty easy to know where to go, even if you don't remember the why behind your travel. While I can't fully blame it on the game, I'm sure it is more of a personal problem of spacing out a little bit at times, or just outright forgetting the information given to me during a brief interaction with a character, but I have to be honest and say it was pretty often I would find myself confused in the details of my immediate goals. You really only get instructions told once, briefly, during quick conversations. I mean, it makes sense, you don't know where the hell you are, and everyone is in a rush to survive. But from a player's perspective, it would have been nice to have the brief conversations you have available as text in your inventory. I also would have liked to have a map. I know they couldn't have brought back that, path projection thing from Dead Space, but a simple map outlining your destination would have sufficed. Things start to kind of look the same when you're wandering around a spaceship without an overworld view of the layout. Additionally, I wish they did a better job dating all the audio files. I also wish they provided a journal in your menu to be able to keep track of the overall timeline. As the story begins to unravel and you learn more and more about what happened prior to your arrival in this nightmare, the timeline gets bigger and bigger. However, I found myself unsure of when exactly certain things took place, or where in the timeline a specific person's audio file was from. It would have made for a better experience if everything was dated. I even found myself going back and re-listening to audio files, checking the biographies of characters, trying to find dates, but most were left blank. It's a shame, for me at least, since I love lore and reading that type of stuff. But I'm still grateful they took the time to at least include lore in all the audio files. The Callisto Protocol is very well made. It's clean and structured. It feels like you're playing a AAA high-quality game. The combat is simple, everything feels intuitive and straightforward in a good way, and it lets the story and cinematic core of the game flourish and really shine. That is not to take away from the downright grimy and utter violence of the game. This is a horror game. This world is horror. This story is horror. The combat feels fluid and action-friendly, but it is brutal. The strikes feel weighted, the impact feels realistic, and the damage can be felt as the polished animations blend together with the audio. I loved it. Immediately from the first tutorial, I loved it. They did an outstanding job with the animation and overall experience of the combat. It just felt rewarding to me, and as twisted as it is to say, it felt great seeing the enemies break their arms as they try to block my swings. This game was made with a lot of attention to details, resulting in quite an immersive experience. However, there are other details that were overlooked. The biggest one for me was the issue that arose every time I had to fight multiple enemies at once. This game shines when there's only one enemy, and I'd admit the simplicity and effectiveness of the dodging mechanic even made those too easy. But back to my original point. The game is so cinematic that it really hyper-focuses on the one enemy you are fighting. So if another one comes from behind, you literally don't see them. To be honest, even if they are side by side, you still don't really see them. You get so close from the melee combat and the tight camera that it just becomes a clusterfuck. The swings and attacks are so realistic and weighted that you feel locked into the enemy you are fighting, even if the second enemy is literally touching you. It's like you're stuck with the first enemy you engaged with until you kill them. I thought the pacing was pretty good, but I still think it suffers from an issue I had with Dead Space. This annoying, never-ending forward way of progression. They both constantly gave me the feeling that fetch missions do, without using fetch missions. I get that it's a horror game, so things aren't gonna go right, but there should still be some moments of rest, of accomplishment and safety. I remember finding Dead Space's mission layout annoying. Just a never-ending, gotta get to point A. And then you'd get there and it's like, nope, gotta go over here instead. Then you'd get there and it's like, nope, gotta go over there instead. Like, god damn. The first half of this game was giving me similar vibes, except there was no map, so I really felt confused and out of the loop as to what I was doing or where I was going. I pretty much just knew a guy was telling me, you gotta go here, and I'd follow the generally intuitive path forward, but not really knowing exactly what I was doing or where I was going. And it had the same never-ending feeling of being given a thing to do, then you finally get to that spot, or that thing, and it's either A, it didn't work, or B, something went wrong, and I had to move to another spot. Just this, over and over again. There were no moments when you finally felt like, okay, cool, I accomplished something, or finally met up with someone. I mean, it's just never-ending for like 90% of the game. Things never go right so much that it becomes predictable. You go through all this hassle to meet up with someone, and you know as soon as you do, you're gonna get separated. You'll go through all this work to get to a place, and you know something's gonna go wrong as soon as you get there, and you'll have to go to another place. It's kind of annoying. No matter what genre, everything needs moments to breathe, moments of variety, so that things can build up to climaxes and be extra impactful. I think the weakest part of this game was the variety of enemy designs on a visual level. That is something that made Dead Space legendary. On one hand, the enemy designs of Dead Space necromorphs are so iconic that even if you make them a tiny bit similar, people would immediately label Callisto as a ripoff. I still think they could have had some cooler designs though. As the game progressed, there were a couple of enemies that were extremely mutated and had a cool look. I think they needed more of that. By and large, all the enemies were too humanoid in their silhouettes. There were some pros to that. It made the game feel more down-to-earth and human. The enemies felt more like real people, real humans that were recently infected, and less like an over-the-top, unrealistic sci-fi horror movie. Unfortunately, that also results in the enemies of this game not feeling iconic. There was only one design that I thought was really cool, but it's reused a few times and it doesn't feel very impactful by the second encounter. I did like the variety in the game design of the enemies though. While some enemies were overused, like the leeches and that like long neck egg enemy thing, most were varied in their attack style. And some even mirrored the clickers in The Last of Us, which I really enjoyed. It was a very nice change of pace when a new enemy was introduced, giving a break to the non-stop head-to-head fighting. One of the things I want to avoid when giving my thoughts on games is over-focusing on critiques. Did I mention every single thing I found annoying? Or all the parts I thought could have been better? No, I didn't. Everything and anything can be overanalyzed and critiqued, but that doesn't mean it's bad. However, when I talk about critiques or things that I found annoying in my playthrough, it comes off as though I'm saying it's bad, and that is not the case with the Callisto Protocol. I really like this game. I love the style of it, I love playing it, I thought the art was phenomenal, and I thought the design was very well done and solid. Everything came together to create a rich and engaging world, a ride from beginning to end. It's also easy to lose track of the product in front of you, and get lost in the what ifs, what could have beens, and expectations. At the end of the day, we are not the developers. This is not our baby. This is not our work of art. This is not our years of work. It is not the developer's job to make the games we make up out of our own expectations. Sure, we can all rip apart any game with, well, I wish it was like this. I wish they did this instead. I wish they added this. I wish they got rid of that. This part isn't perfect because I'd rather it been like this. And that is not what I want to do. That is not my goal with these videos. At the end, what the Callisto Protocol is a really good game. It was a genuinely fun experience for me, made up of a style that I love, made in a genre that I love, crafted with so much detail and care. I am grateful there are still people making games like this. In a world full of free-to-play online games, I'm ecstatic people are still making single-player games with this much detail and care, with such a high-polished level of animation, with satisfying combat mechanics, with a carefully crafted world filled with lore. The feeling I had when exploring Arcus is unique to video games. I became so immersed that my curiosity became palpable as I explored around, wondering what the hell happened. Excited to find the audio files and learn more and more, itching to continue playing and see where the story would go. I am glad I played the Callisto Protocol, and I am looking forward to whatever comes next.